Balto and Togo, the dogs who saved Nome. The winter of 1925 was one of the coldest Alaska had ever seen. Snowstorms roared across the land like wild beasts, and the winds cut through clothing like knives. In the small town of Nome, on Alaska's far western coast, children began to cough, struggle for breath, and grow dangerously weak. A deadly disease, diphtheria, had broken out. Without medicine, it would sweep through the town, taking many young lives. The cure existed, a serum called antitoxin. But there was a problem. The supply in Nome had expired. The nearest fresh antitoxin was in Anchorage, nearly 700 miles away. In normal times, a ship or an airplane could carry it. But these were not normal times. The harbor was frozen solid, and planes of the day could not fly in the brutal cold and blinding snow. The only way to bring the medicine was by sled dog team across mountains, frozen rivers, and deadly blizzards. The Great Race of Mercy. Officials decided to set up a relay. The antitoxin was sent by train from Anchorage to Nenana, about 674 miles from Nome. From there, 20 mushers, sled drivers, and roughly 150 dogs would carry it the rest of the way, passing the package from one team to the next. This was not just a race against time. It was a battle against nature itself. Temperatures plunged to -50 F, -45 C, with winds up to 80 miles per hour. The mushers would travel day and night, often with no more than the faint light of the moon, or the flicker of the northern lights to guide them. Togo, the unsung hero. One of the mushers was Leonhard Seppala, a Norwegian-born dog driver known across Alaska for his skill. His lead dog was Togo, a small but powerful Siberian husky with unmatched intelligence and drive. Seppala was given one of the most dangerous legs of the race, to meet the serum coming from the east, then turn around and bring it back toward Nome. Seppala chose a risky shortcut across Norton Sound, a stretch of ice-covered sea. The ice was known to break apart in storms, leaving open water between drifting sheets. But if they crossed it, they could save an entire day. It became known as the Suicide Run. In the middle of a blizzard, with wind tearing at them and visibility near zero, Togo led the team over the shifting ice. He had to sense the safest path, avoiding cracks that could swallow them whole. The temperature fell so low that frostbite struck both dogs and men. Togo and Seppala's team covered 264 miles, nearly double the distance of any other team in the relay. By the time they handed the serum to the next musher, Togo was exhausted and frostbitten. He would never again run such a race. Seppala knew it was the end of his greatest dog's career. Balto's moment. In the final part of the relay, the serum reached Gunnar Carson, another Norwegian-born musher. His lead dog was Balto, a black Siberian husky with a white chest. Balto was not considered the fastest or most talented sled dog, certainly not in Togo's league, but Carson trusted him for his endurance and steady nature. Originally, Carson was supposed to hand the serum to the next team, led by musher Ed Rohn, who was resting at a checkpoint. But when Carson arrived, the storm was so fierce that waking Rohn and readying his team could waste precious time. Carson made a controversial decision. He would push on to Nome himself. Through the night, Balto led the team into the teeth of the storm. The trail was buried under snow, and Carson could barely see Balto's shadow in front of him. At one point, hurricane-force winds flipped the sled, and the serum tumbled into a snowbank. Carson dug with his bare hands until he found it, risking frostbite. At dawn on February 2nd, 1925, Balto and his team staggered into Nome. Their fur was coated in ice, their paws torn and bleeding, but the serum was safe. Doctors immediately began treating the sick, and the epidemic was stopped. Balto becomes a legend. The press loved the story. Photographs of Balto appeared in newspapers across America. To the public, Balto was the hero, the dog, who had delivered the medicine through the storm. They didn't know the details of the relay or how far Togo had run. They saw only the dramatic final act. That same year, New York City placed a bronze statue of Balto, In Central Park, with the words, "Endurance, Fidelity, Intelligence," children climbed on the statue's back and visitors posed for photographs. Balto's name became known far beyond Alaska. The Forgotten Hero. While Balto enjoyed national fame, Seppala and Togo returned quietly to Alaska. Among dog drivers, it was clear who had done the hardest work. Togo had run the longest and most dangerous leg, navigating the treacherous Norton Sound and saving crucial hours in the race. But Togo's heroism happened far from the cameras. For decades, the public believed Balto had done the greatest part of the job. It wasn't until much later that historians began to tell Togo's side of the story. Today, many experts call Togo the true hero of the Serum Run. Balto's dark years. Balto's fame took him across the country, appearing in shows and exhibitions. But as time passed, the excitement faded. Eventually, Balto and some of his teammates were sold to a sideshow in Los Angeles. The conditions were terrible. The dogs were chained, poorly fed, and displayed like curiosities. People paid to see the famous Balto, but few realized the hardship he endured behind the scenes. In 1927, a Cleveland businessman named George Kimball saw Balto in this miserable state. Outraged, he began a campaign to rescue the dog. School children, animal lovers, and citizens of Cleveland donated coins, nickels and dimes. The effort raised enough money to buy Balto and his 6 companions. A hero's retirement. Balto was brought to the Cleveland Zoo, where he lived out his final years in comfort, surrounded by caretakers who respected his service. Visitors came not to gawk, but to honor him. Balto died in 1933 at the age of 14, a good age for a sled dog. His body was preserved and placed in the Cleveland Museum of Natural History, where it remains to this day. People still come to see him, learning not only about his run, but also about the teamwork of all the mushers and dogs of the Great Race of Mercy. The legacy of Balto and Togo. The Serum Run was a collective effort, 20 mushers and about 150 dogs working together to save a town. Without Togo's epic 264-mile push, the medicine might not have reached Carson in time. Without Balto's steady leadership in the final storm, it might never have arrived in Nome at all. Today, both dogs are honoured. Togo has his own statue in New York, and his preserved body is displayed at the Iditarod Trail headquarters in Alaska. Balto remains in Cleveland, a beloved symbol of endurance. Their story is retold in books, films, and the annual Iditarod Trail sled dog race, which traces much of the route they ran. It is a story of courage, teamwork, and the truth, that history sometimes remembers the final act more than the hardest one.
It's time to study new words in context. 1. Blizzard. Definition: a blizzard is a violent snowstorm with strong winds and very low visibility, making it difficult to see or travel. Example: the explorers were trapped for hours in a blizzard that covered the trail completely. 2. Musher. Definition: a musher is a person who drives or guides a sled pulled by dogs, usually across snow or ice. Example: the musher shouted commands, and the dogs raced forward through the snow. 3. Plunge. Definition: plunge means to fall, or move suddenly and deeply into something, often with force. Example: the temperature plunged to 40 degrees below zero during the night. 4. Stretch. Definition: a stretch refers to a continuous length or distance of land, road, or time. Example: they crossed a long stretch of frozen river during their journey. 5. Frostbite. Definition: frostbite is an injury caused by extreme cold, in which skin or body tissue freezes and becomes damaged. Example: the soldier suffered frostbite on his fingers after hours in the icy wind. 6. Endurance. Definition: endurance is the ability to keep going, despite pain, tiredness, or hardship. Example: the athlete showed great endurance by finishing the marathon in freezing weather. 7. The teeth of the storm. Definition: the phrase means the most severe or violent part of a storm. Example: The sailors were caught in the teeth of the storm and struggled to keep control of the ship. 8. Staggered into. Definition: staggered into means to walk or move unsteadily into a place, often from exhaustion or weakness. Example: after the long climb, the hikers staggered into camp, too tired to speak. 9. Leg travel. Definition: in travel, a leg is one section or part of a longer journey. Example: their plane stopped in Paris for the first leg of the trip to Africa. 10. Treacherous. Definition: treacherous means extremely dangerous because of hidden risks or unpredictable conditions. Example: the climbers carefully crossed the treacherous mountain path, covered in ice. 11. Sideshow. Definition: a sideshow is a small, less important performance or exhibition, often part of a larger fair or circus. Example: the famous dog was displayed in a shabby sideshow that treated animals poorly. 12. Gawk. Definition: to gawk means to stare openly and rudely at someone or something. Example: tourists stopped to gawk at the movie star as she walked by. 13. Diphtheria. Definition: diphtheria is a serious infectious disease that makes it hard to breathe and can be deadly without treatment. Example: a diphtheria outbreak spread through the town, threatening the lives of many children. 14. Antitoxin. Definition: antitoxin is a medicine that neutralizes the poison produced by certain diseases. Example: doctors gave the patient an antitoxin to stop the effects of the illness. 15. Suicide run. Definition: a suicide run is a dangerously risky journey, often with little chance of survival, but taken for an urgent purpose. Example: crossing the thin ice in the storm was called a suicide run, but it saved many lives. 16. Serum. Definition: serum is a liquid taken from blood after it has clotted, or it can also mean a liquid medicine prepared for treating or protecting against diseases. Example: doctors rushed the serum to the hospital to treat the children before the disease could spread further.
Comprehension questions. 1. What disease broke out in Nome, Alaska in the winter of 1925? Answer: diphtheria. 2. Why couldn't the medicine be delivered by ship or airplane? Answer: the harbor was frozen, and planes of the time could not fly in the extreme cold and blinding snowstorms. 3. Where did the sled dog relay start? Answer: in Nanana, Alaska. 4. How many mushers and dogs took part in the relay? Answer: 20 mushers and about 150 dogs. 5. What was the name of the relay that carried the medicine? Answer: the Great Race of Mercy. 6. Who was Togo's musher? Answer: Leonhard Seppala. 7. How far did Togo and his team run during the serum run? Answer: 264 miles. 8. What dangerous shortcut did Seppala and Togo take, and why? Answer: they crossed the frozen Norton Sound to save time, even though the ice could break apart in the storm. 9. What injury did Togo suffer from the serum run? Answer: frostbite, which ended his racing career. 10. Who was Balto's musher? Answer: Gunnar Kaasen. 11. Why did Kaasen decide to continue to Nome instead of passing the serum to the next scheduled musher, Ed Rohn? Answer: the storm was so fierce that waking Rohn and readying his team would waste precious time. 12. What happened to the sled during Balto's leg of the journey? Answer: it flipped in the wind and the serum fell into the snow, forcing Kaasen to dig it out with his bare hands. 13. On what date did Balto arrive in Nome with the serum? Answer: February 2, 1925. 14. Why did Balto become more famous than Togo, even though Togo ran a harder leg? Answer: Balto delivered the medicine in the final leg, and his arrival was dramatic and widely reported by the press, while Togo's effort happened out of public view. 15. What words are inscribed on Balto's statue in Central Park? Answer: endurance, fidelity, intelligence. 16. What happened to Balto after his fame faded? Answer: he was sold to a sideshow in Los Angeles where he was poorly treated. 17. Who rescued Balto from the sideshow and how was it funded? Answer: George Kimball, with money raised by school children and citizens of Cleveland. 18. Where did Balto live after his rescue? Answer, at the Cleveland Zoo. 19. Where can people see Balto today? Answer, his preserved body is at the Cleveland Museum of Natural History. 20. What lesson can be learned from the story of Balto and Togo? Answer, true heroism can be shared among many, and public memory often celebrates the most visible act rather than the hardest one.